We have Sierra Leone's ambassador to Senegal, Alhaji Brima Elvis Koroma. The ambassador is here to talk on the bilateral relations between Sierra Leone and Senegal, the frequent human trafficking and the role of the embassy in repatriating them, among other things. Good morning, Ambassador. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your program.
How is Sierra Leone in Senegal and our relationship with Senegal?
Sierra Leone-Senegal relationship has come a long way, spanning for decades. Because of that fraternal relationship between us, the two countries are very conscious of how they can progress the unity within the two countries. So I'm very pleased to explain to people of Sierra Leone that the Sierra Leoneans are very comfortable in Senegal, as well as Senegalese are comfortable in Sierra Leone. Despite the fact that there are several problems we face in terms of illegal migration, human trafficking, etc., but we've been able to merge that also into our own component to see that we resolve the issues amicably without any rancor within the Senegalese government. So our relationship is very cordial, and we are building on that relationship from the past president up to now, which has actually soared into a height unprecedented, particularly since 2018, with the coming of the president, Julius Maada Bio. The relationship has grown from strength to strength, with more emphasis on trade and the technical cooperation.
Now, we'd look at human trafficking separately on its own, but what is Sierra Leone benefiting from its relationship with Senegal?
Tremendous benefit for Sierra Leone. As I highlighted to you, our relationship with Senegal, both culturally and historically, is tied for a very long time. A lot of corporations have been signed within the past years. Joint corporations, 2008 we have a joint corporation, 2010 we have a joint corporation, all based on trade and investment. But this particular one is very important in the sense that to remove a sitting president just coming in to Sierra Leone signifies a lot, which means the visit here of President Diomaye Faye signifies a lot and important for the purpose of this country. So we believe in terms of cooperation, technical cooperation, for some of you who have been traveling from here to Senegal in the past, you will realize that there have been a lot of difficulties in air transportation. So the first thing we did during the time of the President Julius Maada Bio 2018 was to really sign a cooperation with Air Senegal. And for now, Air Senegal has been moving 3 times a week from Senegal to Sierra Leone. That is one benefit we have been having. Similarly, a lot of high-profile government ministers have been moving to Senegal, actually to get experience how Senegal, because it's one of the stable democracies in Africa, how they have been managed to keep the peace, and what have they done, especially in the areas of health facilities, in the areas of this MCC. Mind you, they have won 2 MCC in a row. So how were they able to do this? So Sierra Leone has benefited a lot through those dialogue, through those technical cooperations, to visit Senegal, to see, to study what they have been doing. So in terms of our relationship, indeed, Sierra Leone has benefited a lot from that cooperation.
The aspect of human trafficking, we had countries previously where the likes of Kuwait, for example, where we know when we talk about human trafficking issues, those were countries where we would get complaints from Sierra Leoneans that have been trafficked. What's the situation of human trafficking as it relates to Sierra Leone and Senegal?
When I arrived in Senegal in 2018, it was so rampant that the embassy had no time to sit, but to find ways and means to put a stop. It was indeed very difficult for us because, one, we don't know how the traffickers were moving. So after some time, we discovered that there are 3 layers in this process of trafficking, especially the trafficking in person. We discovered that there were agents from Sierra Leone who recruit. They pass it to the agent in Guinea because they come by road. Then from Guinea, they enter to Senegal. And in Senegal, they have their own agent, linked up with agent in the Middle East. It was very difficult. It's a very tight cabal at that time. But we were able, through our interaction with the military forces, the police forces, security forces in Senegal, to be able to track most of these people. And why was this so frequent? Because most of these people who have been trafficked to Senegal either be done by people relative to them, either in terms of creating jobs for them. They will not actually tell you that we're going to travel. They will tell you, come, we have a job for you. And when they arrive in Senegal, unfortunately, there will be no job for them. They will end up in camps with people. So we'll be able to discover some of these cells, we'll be able to discover them and make a formal report to the security forces. So from that time, the Senegalese security forces were able to really put a stop to it. Until recently, it took another turn, which is no longer human trafficking, but also on the pretext of removing people for jobs. Also, we are able to track that down. So up to this moment, there is a lot of those Sierra Leoneans who have moved from here to Senegal on the pretext of having a job. And up to this moment, there's no job at all. The burden lies on the embassy. And of course, you know, embassies, we don't have finances. But because of the humanitarian gesture we do, we always make sure we link up with the IMO. IMO is very helpful with us and also other partners within the Senegalese government. We've been able to tie this down for now. It's on a minimal scale. It is not as it used to be as an arrival in Senegal. Because
there are economic challenges
indeed
in Senegal, you know, very high unemployment rate. But how torrid or solid would you say your sensitization has been so that, I mean, Sierra Leoneans can understand that rushing to Senegal cannot solve the problems?
We've had a series of consultations, even within the Sierra Leone community in Senegal. And even for those who will repatriate, we tell them, you be ambassadors. You have seen what you've gone through. But besides, we call the community in Senegal. We sensitize them. And on several visits of the president also, he make emphasis on that. The embassies have no money. But if you comport yourself well, you will stay here because we have our relationship. We don't want anybody to damage that relationship. So because of that, we make sure we take the embassy to the communities. Very recently, I was moving from one community to the other, explaining the functions of the embassy, explaining our constraints, and that if these people come on the pretext of having jobs, you are better placed because you interface with them. They come directly to the communities before we know. So you be our ambassadors over there. So I think for quite some time, this one is going on, and we are happy that we are not beginning to tie this time down from the immigration.
I understood that 6 girls aged 14, 16, 17, 18, and 20, you know, 22 years as well, will be repatriated or have already been repatriated in February this year, 2024.
That was a very challenging issue for us. As I told you, these 6 girls were really trafficked to Senegal through their
all of their
relatives.
Sierra Leoneans.
Sierra Leoneans, all Sierra Leoneans, through their relatives. I mean, when we interviewed them, they said their auntie was in Senegal. So the auntie called them to go and have job for restaurants and so. So when they arrived in Senegal, they were now introduced to somebody who is not even of a Sierra Leonean type. It's Nigeria. So luckily for them, these guys were very smart. So on their way going, I think they discovered a Sierra Leonean guy who actually exchanged their numbers. So, but the Sierra Leonean guys realized the anxiety on these case. So he took a number from there. When they arrived at the supposed home of this auntie, the auntie was nowhere to be found. Later on, she emerged and then told them that he wanted to introduce them to their aunties. It was then that these girls, they were very prayerful, 6 of them in the room, they pray according to them, and then all of a sudden, the lady who brought them to the house left the door open. That was where they managed to escape. And when they managed to escape, straight away they called this young man who brought them to the embassy. So we were able, through the IMO, to talk for them, and then we were able to repatriate them to Australia. It's very challenging for us economically, as I told you, because the embassy hasn't got money, but this is on a daily basis, which is really very difficult for us as an embassy.
The first repatriation you did was in 2023?
The first repatriation was in 2019, when I arrived.
How many times have you repatriated?
5 times.
5?
Yeah.
In the last, how many years? 5 years?
The last one is yesterday when I left. When I left Thursday, Senegal, we left somebody at the embassy who actually went naked, misbehaving everywhere.
Naked to the embassy?
Yes, misbehaving there. The police have to come, and luckily our DG, the Director of General here, was in Senegal. She was able to calm the situation, and then has been repatriated.
What was that situation all about?
Well, he just misbehaving that he wanted to come, and then we did everything possible for him. We went to Caritas. Caritas volunteered to pay. They bought his ticket. He refused to come. He came to the embassy. We gave him money. He refused to come. So he was just misbehaving. We don't know for what reason. But this is the situation we face as an embassy.
It seems it's a very disturbing issue.
Indeed.
One that will perhaps, get even more disturbing with time. What concrete plans are on the table now to tackle this? It seems an endless stream, of constant repatriations, you understand, smuggling, trafficking in between Senegal and Sierra Leone. Whatever the reason is why people are rushing to that place, do you know?
Well, when they started this, they call it temple run. Most of them were running temple run.
Okay.
They were running for greener pastures, believing that when they get to Senegal, they will actually get their way out of Senegal. But when they go to Senegal, they are trapped. In fact, the third repatriation involved about 85 Sierra Leoneans. And they were duped online on the pretext that they will go to Senegal, there are jobs, they will be paid $1,000, etc., etc. And these guys were really taken to a town called Thiès in Senegal, one of the largest cities in Senegal. They were there for 3 months undergoing training. It's only dawned on them when one of them realized that the form they were filling was actually a Q cell form. So he then brought this to the attention of those who took them to Thiès. So, but this form you have given us is Q cell. That was why the alert was raised. And then we were able to arrest, and we moved straight to Thiès and discover this 85 students. Yes, 85 Sierra Leoneans. Again, through the intervention of IMO, we were able to screen them, and then these people were repatriated. That is one. So we have made that known to our authorities. But the financial constraint keeps on coming. So they are more sensitized on this issue. They are in sympathy with us because there is no way they can do, because it happens when we don't have money. And even when we have money, it is not money meant for repatriation. It is money meant for the maintenance of the embassy. When they keep on coming with the pretext, with the knowledge that the embassy has money to cater for them. In fact, some instances you will see people sick. They will come to the embassy to take care of them. So the issues are so much that we just manage it because for the love of the country, we show we don't want us to look that bad in the eyes of the people. But actually, it is overwhelming. And I believe our authorities, most of them have visited, most of them have witnessed what I'm saying. They have it, they know it, and we know that there are plans on our way so that we'll be able to actually minimize most of these things that happen in Senegal.
Ambassador, the embassies are there to represent Sierra Leone in these countries, and the representation obviously should fall in line with the government, particularly the president's agenda for the nation. President Bio has been traveling, seeking direct foreign investors into the country. Senegal, being a francophone country, does have ties to some of the other francophone nations. What are the priority areas of the embassy as you sit there to represent Sierra Leone as a nation? What are your priorities? What are you looking out for to bring back to Sierra Leone?
As you rightly said, we as ambassadors are an extension of the presidency. Of course, mind you, the president is the chief diplomat. So we align our activities with the activities of the president. For now, he's talking about the 5 big game changer. So there's no other thing we can do outside that 5 big changer. We move along with it and trying to find out credible investors. Sometimes they will come, sometimes they're not credible. And the president did tell us that. Look for investors that are credible and reliable, not those who can come and dupe you. So we're very careful. I'm very careful for myself. I always come with people who are interested in investing in Sierra Leone, but how credible are they? We'll do the background check. It is us to do the background check and link them up with the line ministries, because the work of ambassador is actually to lobby, to negotiate. But once you've got the investors to come to Sierra Leone, the rest of the story lies with the line ministries and those that meet. Our job is done. It is left with the ministry to decide. I've gone with a couple of them, but by and large, most of them do not work because the laws of Sierra Leone and the laws of Senegal maybe cannot align together. So in most cases, they fall out. But the most important aspect is, as I told you, our relationship with Senegal. You know about the CSE. CSE is a Senegalese company who has been here for over how many years in road construction. That one is a very soluble one. Everybody knows about CSC's work in Sierra Leone. So we've been working with them, and they are working with Sierra Leone. In terms of technical cooperation also, as I told you, we've been able to move Air Senegal to come. Initially, it was Transair that came when I came with Transair. Transair is a subsidiary of Air Senegal. So later on, because of the capacity of Transair, Air Senegal was able to come in, which is a bigger capacity. So along these lines, we've been able to really pin on the people that agriculture is in the second term of the president is what is very important. So along that line, I've been looking for those investors who are interested. And a couple of them have actually come, and now they are looking at those aspects, what they can do.
And in that area of agriculture, it's a multi-pronged approach. Investors, yes, that could come and invest in the agricultural sector, but also export opportunities for some of the things we produce in country that could probably be in demand in Senegal. And we do have infrastructural policies and agreements in the continent that can also even sustain that, like the Intercontinental Free Trade, for example. What are the opportunities you've identified that you're exploring?
Well, you rightly said the cooperation spans, in so many areas. What you are just talking about is very recently the local content policy here also visited Senegal with their own local content and studied the market. So many other areas like tourism, they have also visited. The health, they have visited. So the priority areas of these ministries also is left with the technical framework of what they can do so that they can align. Yes, we have a lot of product now made in Sierra Leone, as I'm talking to you, being now sold in most of the supermarkets in Senegal. So that one is building up gradually, and it depends on our productivity that will actually lead to the interest of the Senegalese market. There are a lot of Sierra Leoneans who are doing business there now, which really is booming, as I say. But in areas of what you are saying, it's left with the technical teams to develop most of these items that can be marketable. It's our packaging that is very important. The branding of our product and how it can be accessible to these people. So indeed, movements are there, corporations are there from this end to Senegal. It's very sure, I'm sure, pretty soon it can take off.
Let's now talk about products in Senegal, from Senegal to Sierra Leone. You've already said that some of our products are now being sold in Senegal. In recent years, oil and gas, for instance, were discovered off the coast of Senegal, which could be quite beneficial to Sierra Leone. Also millet and sorghum, which is perhaps, they are one of the largest producers of that. Phosphate as well. We've not been seeing, commodities of such nature, making their way into Sierra Leone and cushioning the huge economic, effects we are currently faced with in this country.
That one could be attributed to policies that will actually actualize what you are saying. But I can assure you, with the visit of President Jomai Jakafai, these policies are now going to be moved faster. One of the key issues he's interested in is that most of these joint corporations, as I told you, 2008, 2010, that have been signed between the two countries, just actualize. But now, he said he is coming to visit Sierra Leone, and Sierra Leone will always remain to be his second home. That rings a bell. And very recently, as you've said, Senegal has started producing oil. They are producing 100,000 barrels a day now. So that is a game changer for us as well. We want to leverage on that also, wherein they have now produced this oil, what we can do from our end so that we can benefit from this oil. In other areas of items we're talking about, that is completely left with those like Ministry of Trade and Industry, what they can do to package their own, the fisheries industry, all these areas, their own technical framework will be packaged, and then Senegalese will look at it. But indeed, we are experiencing some of our product now in Senegal. Now, I am sure also, maybe here, not on a grand scale, but it must be there, but not on a grand scale. But as we said, it needs more sensitization from our ministries so that they can move it forward.
What was the should I say, the most, pressing issue why the Senegal president came? What was he here to discuss? I mean, the crux, if I should say, of his meeting with the retired brigadier.
The visit of President Jomai Jakafai to his elder brother, so as a result of the visit of His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio at the inauguration ceremony of Jomai Faye, he was much impressed about the leadership role of President Julius Maada Bio. He admires him a lot and regards him as his elder brother. So he wanted to have first-hand information. How can he progress in a country, and how is President Bio able to progress within this country, which is so much about. So his visit actually is to cement that relationship between the two countries and to give confidence to the two countries that despite all rumors, what people are saying, Senegal-Sierra Leone relationship remain very tight, and they are moving to a new level, the level of cooperation which we know. And not only that, you know, within the region, there's been a lot of tensions, even from transition. So they've pledged also to support democratic and constitutional transitions. So this is very important. So he's a Democrat.
In what ways can he,
in many ways, we know the region where governments, you know, a lot of things that happen. They wanted to encourage those countries so that they actually we keep to their term limit. Because this term limit is creating a lot of problems for African countries. So he is a Pan-Africanist, which is why, in fact, when he came to power, instead of the normal nomenclature of Minister of Foreign Affairs and so forth, he said Africa integration. So he said he's going to integrate Africa. First of all, his African brothers are a priority rather than the Europeans. Why? Because from OAU to AU, nothing much has been achieved, only rhetoric. So this is why they have laid emphasis on African integration. And actually moving from one country to the other gives them the understanding to know how these African countries have been managing their own countries, politically, socially, and economically. So his visit is very important one to actually leverage and give confidence to the people of Sierra Leone and Senegal that our relationship is growing from strength to strength and there will be no stopping over.
We have few messages on our Facebook page on this issue. We'll just read some of them for you briefly so you can respond. Mosiri Jane is welcoming you. He says, welcome our new ambassador. Usman Prince Sulaiman Kavoni is asking, what is your yearly fiscal budget? How do you raise funds?
Usman Prince Sulaiman Kavoni again, what have you done to establish trade, tax and supply chain to enable us to build a friendly environment?
Mosdi responds to Usman's message on your fiscal budget by saying, I like it when you're asking questions you know you will not get the accurate answers to the questions you asked. He has already stated they don't have money.
Usman Prince Salman Kavon again is asking, how many Sierra Leoneans do we have in Senegal?
He says also, rather than only bilateral relationships, what's the duty of the ambassador and how do you represent the people in Senegal?
Mr. Ambassador, this from Abu Obokari. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for your good work for representing us in Senegal. Mr. Ambassador, are you saying that government doesn't allocate funds for such emerging issues affecting Sierra Leoneans in Senegal?
Usman is making a suggestion. He says we can ship fish and other products.
Abdoulaye Bilukule, human trafficking is a serious violation of human rights and a form of modern-day slavery. One way to manage human trafficking is to collaborate with authorities, work with law enforcement and government to share information and coordinate efforts. Remember, every effort counts in the fight against human trafficking. These are some of the messages we've gathered for now. Ambassador, if you would like to respond to some of them.
Thank you very much. Although the first one has been answered, the fiscal budget, we don't budget for ourselves. Our line ministry do the budgeting. So we just implement, we do what they give us is what we implement in terms of maintenance of the embassy.
From the Foreign Affairs?
Consolidated fund, yeah.
Okay.
That's right. The trade and the investment is what bilateral relationship is about. And as I told you, we will do the lobby. We will discover the investors. we will bring them to Sierra Leone. But what happens here remains purely with the line ministries. It is left with them to see what policies the investors will be coming up, whether that can align within the system of Sierra Leone. But what we can do is just to make sure we identify them and they come and sit with them. How many Sierra Leoneans are in Senegal? We have a lot of Sierra Leoneans now, ranging from 1,000 to 2,000 Sierra Leoneans, all scattered within the Senegalese regions. They are not concentrated in Dakar. But for Dakar specifically, we can talk about 1,000 more. And we, apart from the expatriates who are there, who are also working. The duty of an ambassador is very simple. You are there to represent the president, and what the president tells you to do is what you do. You don't have anything on your own accord. One, we are there to also to secure the welfare of the citizens. But that doesn't mean those security is beyond, which is beyond our reach. We can force it. One is the welfare. What happens to Sierra Leoneans, for example, you are moving here to Dakar, you have difficulties in Dakar, it is the duty of the embassy to come to your aid. There are people who move here to hospitalize, they are dead, they die there. It's our responsibility to give you this passage. It is also for us to give you protocol services as you move here because you are a Sierra Leonean. So these are some of the duties we can do. And also, we make sure we keep within the limit of our operation. We are governed by the Vienna Convention of 1961, which means we as an embassy or ambassadors, we don't have right to interfere into the internal functions of the countries, our host countries. Otherwise, that will breach that leverage between the country and the country you are representing. So our duty is very clear, and we have been doing that, moving from place to place, sensitize our people to tell them what our functions are and what we are to do and what they cannot do. Allocation of funds, as I said, government do allocate funds, but it is not allocation of funds for what I have said, that this is for this. No. Allocation of funds, we have limited funds, so it's difficult. But when it do come, we have our partners, like the International Organization for Migration. They are always be coming to our aid. We have the Caritas. We have other groups who are coming to our aid who've been able to service that. So it is not something that we will not be able to handle, apart from the allocation of funds. Human trafficking, of course, that is very serious. And the Senegal, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and the sub-region have also come in handy to really make sure that they put a stop to this human trafficking, which is why in the time past they were going through Lunge Airport. But because of the security, measures they've put in place on these countries, they now move by road to Guinea. From Guinea, they can go by road again to Senegal. And when they reach to Senegal, now we don't even know where they go until they belong to problem. So we've taken it very seriously, which is why we don't even see them now at the airport. And in Senegal also, what I did was to collaborate with the security forces. I told them that wherever there are Sierra Leoneans, 5 or 10, with a passport, moving to the Middle East, please alert us. And frankly, those people have been helping us in that. So you see now that there are no trafficking on the Senegalese airlines from our own end because of that measure we have put in place. So it's something we take very serious, and we also pursue it. Right.
Ambassador, continue to stay with us. Fabian?
We'll head over to Studio 2 now and join our sports correspondent, Fatmata, for the latest sports update. Good morning, Fatmata. What do you have for us today?
Good morning. It seems as if you're having some problems with your sound. Your microphone is not properly fixed. We'll surely get back to Fatmata during the course of the program. Let's continue with Ambassador. So yes, you were talking about perhaps one of the most contentious challenges I think you're faced with now is trafficking by road. How can that be salvaged or solved?
Well, it's difficult somehow because if you travel by road, nobody will detect that they are trafficking you. Except that we are very vigilant from our side in Senegal. We have our union, the Sierra Leone Union. the Sierra Leone Union have their own president, actually on the ground.
Sierra Leone is living in Senegal?
Yes.
Okay.
They actually are the first people to interface these people who moved to Senegal. In fact, they are the source of our, information. So we've recently again called them. Before this one yesterday I was talking about, also there was a lady who was trafficked to Senegal. Through the help of some people in America, they were able to raise money. We were able to repatriate her to Kono. It's the same Sierra Leone president, union president, that took her to Senegal, to Kono. So we are working with them in the view that because they are interfacing with most of the people that come in Senegal, we don't know. They actually bring, and they have given us a lot of indications of where these people have been kept. So we are now moving very fast to break out those cells that they can traffic there. But to say you can really detect those who are moving by trafficking by road is very difficult for us to know that, and even for authorities here.
Someone is saying, Mosdi on our Facebook page, said, the most important lesson we can learn from Senegal is how the Senegalese people realize real change by moving away from the old political parties and choosing the actual new direction. Good luck with the new generation leader in Africa.
Well, Senegal's political landscape is different from us. They don't have political parties as we have here. They have a coalition of political parties. And all the previous presidents came under coalition. President Macky Sall, the latest, came under coalition. They call it Beni Bokoyaka. This one, Jomai presidency, came under a coalition. So no single party has won election in Senegal, actually. But what makes theirs very different from us is that their own mindset of politics is different from Sierra Leone. They don't have that mindset wherein if a political party is in governance and then there's something wrong, they go and destroy. No, they don't do that at all. They target you, the individual, but they don't target their own property, like infrastructure, as we see here. They don't do that at all. That is what I've noticed. And that is why they call it a stable democracy, because if you follow up the election to the March 24 of this election, where this president just came out for president 10 days, he became president, it's amazing that people are saying, oh, but it goes beyond that. It's a years of resilience, a years of, somebody who believes in what you do. That is what culminated into what they have today.
Okay, so let me hold you there for a while. And I'm joined again, Fatmata. I think you're ready now.
Yeah, I am ready. I am ready now. Well, good morning again to you, Victor. Good morning to Phoebe, our guest, viewers and listeners as well. Well, there are certainly a lot of happening in sports, but let's go for our first story. The fight for prestige and integrity continues in the Leone Rock Premier League. It is no iota of doubt that Rangers FC has recorded another history from themselves, being crowned the 3 consecutive winners of the league, remaining 2 and 3 games to end this season. The margin between Rangers and second position speaks volume of the fact that they are the winners of the Leone Rock Premier League. Being a new breed in the league, Bantam Football Club surprised everyone with their phenomenal performance, taking over from FC Cologne and sits second position with 58 points, whilst FC Cologne, who were previously second, sits third now with 51 points, followed by Wusum Stars, Old Edwardians and East Lions FC on 4th, 5th and 6th with 50, 48 and 45 points respectively. In the other hand, Real Republicans FC has moved one step off relegation zone, sitting at 15th with 29 points, followed by Freetown City FC, Khalifa Stars and Kaula Rangers FC, sitting at 16th, 17th and 18th with 28, 24 and 23 points. Well, to another story, we will look at basketball across the world. The Celtics beat the Dallas Mavericks 106-88 in game week 5 to the NBA Finals in Boston last night to secure their league record 18th title. This is the Celtics' first championship since 2008, and its most boasting past the Lakers franchise, 17-1 in Minneapolis and Los Angeles, to sit alone at the top of the list of the clubs with the most titles in NBA history. Celtics star Tatum had a game-high 31 points, along with 11 assists and 8 rebounds, while fellow standouts Brown added 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. Brown was named the NBA Finals MVP after averaging 20.8 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 5 assists per game in the series, stating that it was a full team effort and a team win. And finally, for sport on Wake Up, following France securing all 3 points over Austria in Group D, former France team doctor Fabrice Briand told Equipe that Kylian Mbappe could be sidelined for at least 10 days by surgery on a broken nose and possibly even longer, putting his Euro 2024 campaign in serious doubt. New France captain will be out for 10 days minimum. The French Football Federation confirmed last night that the player was pictured leaving the stadium in an ambulance and was undergoing surgery at the University Hospital of Düsseldorf. France coach Didier Deschamps said his new captain Mbappe didn't get off lightly after a collision with Austrian defender Kevin Danso later in their 1-0 win over Austria, which seemed to have left him with a broken nose. Well, all the best to Kylian Mbappe. He seemed to be their most important player in the squad. We saw how instrumental he was in last night's match against Austria. Well, that's all for Sport on Wake Up Sierra Leone this morning. Back to you, Victor and Phoebe in the main studio.
Thank you very much indeed, Fatma to say, for that comprehensive update this morning. You're watching Wake Up Sierra Leone on the Africa Young Voices television and radio with myself, Victor Jones, and Phoebe Sweel. We still have the ambassador, Sierra Leone ambassador to Senegal, Alhaji Brima Elvis. Ambassador, so what would you say the next 4 years hold for Sierra Leone as a direct benefit from its counterpart, Senegal?
Pretty soon, Sierra Leone will begin to realize the relationship between us and Senegal. And with the visit of His Excellency President Diomaye Faye, that one is going to be accelerated because our cooperation, mind you, the visit and the signing of the communique is a highlight the visit of His Excellency. In that communique, there are a number of issues the two countries will address. Trade and investment, energy, infrastructure, mining, tourism, health structure, etc., etc. But all these factors or these issues will now be in a framework by the two countries, by the respective ministries. So how they accelerate it will also benefit the two countries. But this visit is important for us, and I believe, and I'm pretty sure, that within the next few years, this cooperation, this joint cooperation we have signed with Senegal, will yield dividend for Sierra Leone and Senegal.
I'm not sure everything is rosy, in as much as you're doing well, your efforts and that of the president has fostered, or thickened the relationship between Senegal and Sierra Leone, but I'm sure there are challenges. What are some of perhaps the most pressing challenges your work, and the entire embassy is faced with in Senegal?
Well, apart from my embassy, the entire country, since COVID-19, a lot of issues in terms of, economic, in terms of finance, is really pretty difficult. Wow. The government is trying very hard to make sure at the end of every month, workers are paid, the embassies, their priority areas, but it's extremely difficult on the government because we can also understand. So which is why we pipe down most of our activities that are economically challenging, and government cannot do it at that pressing time. But we know our challenge also is this trafficking, these numerous people who come to the embassy, hoping that as an embassy we have all the answers to their problems. Well, each of us, we don't have those things. But we keep on managing, leveraging on them so that at least at the end of the tunnel, we also, within our own way, we try to encourage most of these people. Most of them are not even working, and most of them are women and children. And they come to the embassy, they complain to us, but also the challenge of finance is for everybody. So we hope and pray that things will be turned around, and then there will be the light at the end of the tunnel, so that at least we leverage on there. But it's extremely difficult, not only for us, but for the entire country.
There's someone on our Facebook page, Usman Prince Suleiman Kavon, is asking, do we register people upon arrival or send out, messages that people have to register upon arrival for the embassy to be able to protect them?
That is one of the areas of the big challenge we have. I used to tell them, when we are here, we see the Americans, the British, when they arrive, the first port of call is the embassy. No, that is not the way. That is not what they do there. Except they run into a problem. This is why they know the embassy. Some people go there on medical, we don't even know until they die. So it's extremely difficult for us maybe to even know. And even those who are there, to register them is also extremely difficult. Whether it's a culture of negligence on the part of Australians, or they don't just care. They don't also even take the embassies, that this is where, if anything wrong with them, they can come and report. So we've not been able to do that because we don't even know when they enter the country and when they go out of the country. We only come to know when they run into problems or when they die. That is all we know before they can run to the embassy. Or when they run into problems, they can say, we need attestation from your embassy. This is where some of them don't even know where the embassy is. This is why they can run to us and give them. So it's a pretty headache for us until we keep on sensitizing. When you come to Senegal, not for anything, but make sure you visit your embassy. And quite a few people are doing that. They will come on their business trip. They will say, no, we are just visiting the embassy. And this is very appreciative of that. But majority of them do not come to the embassy at all and will not be able to register there. And what can make them stay, those who go there to stay, is what we call consular card. The consular card signifies the relationship between us. Whenever the security forces see this card, this is an identity card, they know that it's from the embassy of Sierra Leone, these people will be free. But when you don't have that consular card, you run into a problem. And similar issues also occur in Mauritania, because I also cover Mauritania and Cape Verde. I used to visit them, and that one now is a thing of the past. I've gone there and said to go there. But most of them don't really come to the embassy to register.
So, Ambassador, I believe we're rounding off now. And so what would be your perhaps penultimate statement to Sierra Leoneans generally?
Let us keep the faith, Sierra Leone. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
How far is this light?
Very soon, pretty soon. Within the next 6 months, you begin to realize that the visit of His Excellency here will yield fruit. But this is also a confidence-building visit. That in spite of all odds, our President Julius Maada Bio, is a visionary. And his movement not only limited to the region, because he's now a global icon. Everybody looks up to him because of that singular position he holds within the region and also in the world. People are now moving towards him. They are now moving towards, gravitating towards him. So which means, again, apart from our bilateral relationship, there are also other international issues which Sierra Leone will stand to benefit. But I'm sure where I am and what I know, and so far, I know this visit and many other visits will yield benefit for Sierra Leone very soon.
I pray and hope that faith yields its required fruits. Phoebe, wouldn't you agree? Well, Mr. Ambassador, we want to thank you very much indeed for gracing our studio and our program, Wake Up, Sierra Leone today. And we do wish you well. And we hope that indeed this relationship between Senegal and Sierra Leone continues to bear ripe fruits moving forward. He's the Sierra Leone ambassador.